Not everybody likes them, but they don't care.
Hi, I'm Carl Bates of BBC and Millwall iFollow. You're about to listen to Millwall's No One Likes Us Talking's Eamonn Barkley, talking with former Millwall star Dennis Burnett about his journey from Millwall to Hull, across the Atlantic, Brighton, across the Irish Sea, bringing a star to Millwall, giving back to the sport that gave to him, and meeting people of both national and international notoriety along the way. This is the final part of a three-part interview where we welcome a Millwall star from the 60s and 70s. It's Dennis Burnett. Enjoy.
In the last episode, we talked about those you played alongside and some memorable games. In late 73, Millwall took a fee of £75,000 and you headed off to Hull City for the next step in your footballing career.
When I went to Hull City, Terry Neal bought me. He used to be the manager of Arsenal. He managed Arsenal, played for them, very good player. And I went up there, and until my house in London was sold and my wife moved up, I lived with Terry in his house. He said, don't go in a hotel, it's going to be lonely. I've got a big house, which he did, a lovely home. He said, come and live with us. He said, and I used to go out on all the spying missions with him. We'd travel a bit in the evening in his car down to the Midlands and watch a game. Everything. I was just like a brother. And then my wife moved up, and obviously we had a nice house. And then he called me into training one day, and he said, I've got some bad news for you. And this was after about 6-7 months. So I said, well, what's that then? He said, I've taken the Spurs job. He said, we're moving back to London. Oh. So, because, we being the only Southerners, up in those days, people from Hull, they considered us some Southern softies, is what they used to call us. And it was a bit difficult we did make a few friends up there, but it was difficult for the wife at first. So because, she lost Terry's wife, who she got on very well with.
Yes.
It was a big blow. And then the new manager that come in was a very good friend of mine. I used to play golf with him twice a week, John Kay. He lived about 50 yards from where I did, and we used to go in training together. And he got the manager's job and very quickly got me out of the team. Because wasn't his style of player, I suppose.
Yeah.
And they bought a guy called Dave Roberts from Cardiff who played for Wales. He was a Welsh international.
Yeah. And
that was it. So, that was life. And I wasn't wanted. But hey ho, that's how it happened.
That's how it happened. On leaving Hull, you headed out to the States where football was developing rapidly, and you played along some of the greats who had global notoriety, such as Pelé and Franz Beckenbauer. What were they like?
They were quite good players. Mm-hmm. Well, I played over in St. Louis on 2 different years, 75, the summer of 75 and the summer of 77. And probably rarity, I played against Pelé 3 times. And he hasn't scored in any of them games, and we won every game. So I don't think there's many people got that record. But the first year I was there, we played the Cosmos in a friendly in St. Louis, and we won 1-0. And then in the following seasons I was there, we played them. They were in our division in the league. In our division, they played for the New York Cosmos. We were in St. Louis, 1,500 miles away, and they were in our division. But so the first game we played was in the what's it called, the stadium just outside New York. Can't remember it now, but it was a baking hot day, and they also had Franz Beckenbauer didn't play that game, but they had another centre forward called Giorgio Chinaglia.
Chinaglia, the Italian.
Played Italian centre forward, big guy, and that was their front 2 strikers, Pelé and Chinaglia. So, and we drew. There was about 65,000 people at the stadium now, and we drew 0-0. And because they then have they have 15-minute shoot extra time.
Yeah.
First goal, golden goal sort of thing, and it was still 0-0 after that. So then we go to the penalty shootout thing, what they have, which is like you run from 35 yards out, and a hooter goes, and you have to shoot and get it over the line with 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So and I always used to go first for St. Louis. I was captain out there, and I went first, and I was quite lucky that I hate taking penalties. I'm not a good penalty taker, but with that, where you actually take the ball forward and dribble, I don't know, I'm quite relaxed with that. So anyway, I stuck mine away. So we're winning 1-0, and then something happens. Anyway, Pelly, I think he was about the third or fourth. He come through and he skied it over the bar.
Ooh.
So we won that game on the penalty shootout system, and then later on in the season, we played them at the Busch Stadium in St. Louis, which is Anheuser-Busch, which owned Budweiser, the beer.
Yeah.
And there was about 45,000 people there in the big Busch Stadium, and Beckenbauer played that day, and also 2 more of ex-Millwall players had come out for that season. Ray Evans, the right back, that used to play for Spurs, but as a good player, Ray, and Barry Salvage especially was a left winger, and very, very good player, Barry. And so we had a bit of a contingency of ex-Millwall players there, and we beat them 2-0. Wow. So that was my against Pelly. Very, very gentlemanly, very tough man. If you hit him in a tackle or a collision, it was like walking into a brick wall. Gosh. He was just solid muscle. Yeah. But perfectly clean. He wasn't dirty, or if he was, he could take a bit of tackling because he had to. All the years he played, he had some really nasty, brutal people. But he was certainly an honour to play against.
What an experience!
I got his autograph and photograph at the end of the game after the pre-match. So I got my autograph. I just wish I'd have asked him to change shirts. It's something we didn't do. I could have had 3 shirts. I could have sold 2 and kept 1.
Yeah, you'd have been well off on doing that. You spent some time at Brighton and Hove Albion. A certain Mr. Taylor, who was part of the Clough and Taylor, a little bit like Jones and Higgins, really, but Clough and Taylor were at Derby County together.
Well, I would say that
was your manager.
Clough and Taylor were more like Morecambe and Wise. Put it that way.
I think there was something like that. I'll never forget Neil Ruddock's impersonation of Brian Clough. Right. It's absolutely magnificent if you ever look on YouTube. But Peter Taylor. Yeah,
Peter Taylor. Yeah. Yeah, he signed me from when I come back from America. I was looking for a club. And a friend of mine that was the sports editor, football editor for the Evening News, the London Evening News, was a guy called Victor Roughton. Salt of the earth. He would dig up everything. He'd know everything there was to know in football. And he said to me, "Right, I've got a club for you." He said, "Are you concerned where it is?" I said, "Well, my wife said, as long as it's south of Watford, we'll be all right." So he said, "Well, it's at Brighton." I said, "Right, fine." I didn't really know the place that way. So I come down from Hull and had a meeting with Peter Taylor in a hotel that the club used there called the Cortlands Hotel. And, the interview was quite good. He didn't really want to know much about me, or I'm assuming that he might have made some, discussion with people about what I'd played or where I'd been. But he just said that he'd only just taken over from Brian Clough, who walked out. And this was about 6 or 7 weeks down the line. And he'd been made manager. And, of course, he was getting some money from the club to boost the players and get new players in. So there was quite an influx of players, and I was one of them. Phil Bill arrived from Spurs, and Joe Kinnear, who were both established first-team players from Spurs and good players, and I joined, and I didn't really negotiate a signing on fee. I was just happy to get a club, really, and so I moved down with the family, and it started very well. I went in the team straight away, had some good results. We were flying, we were going up, but Peter Taylor, I soon sort of realised that his one involvement in life, football, was second to horse racing, gambling, and that's all he was interested in. And he was, we played a game once. We had a pre-season friendly against Ipswich, and Bobby Robson was manager, and he brought the whole of his first team down. There was Kevin Beattie played. There was the Dutchman. They had a really good team, and I think we drew 1-1. It was a really good pre-season game. A lot of people at Brighton, probably 20,000 people. And a couple of days later, we had the next day off, and then we went in training. And I said to the manager, Peter Taylor, about the game and all that. He said, I didn't see it. I said, what do you mean didn't see it? Oh, he said, I wouldn't walk across the road, he said, to watch a friendly. And I said, you're joking? He said, no. He said, I wasn't there. He said, I wouldn't go to watch a friendly. And I thought to myself, well, how rude is that? You've just got invited Bobby Robson, one of the top managers in the country. One of the best teams have come down to assist our pre-season work, and you haven't even had the decency to go there and welcome him and have a drink with him and all that. But that was what he was like. So that was that.
Who was his assistant manager?
Yeah, right. Well, he brought this guy down called Brian Dakin. And Brian Dakin, nice guy, he was all right. Wasn't any harmful about him. But Peter Taylor, when he inherited the job very quickly from Brian Clough, he obviously needed people around him. He didn't have an assistant manager, he didn't have a trainer or anything. So he made a phone call back to Derby and invited this chap down, Brian Dakin, to become his assistant manager. And of course, Brian Dakin accepted and was over the moon. His qualifications for becoming assistant manager and coaching the players was the fact that he used to go into Derby every Friday morning and sell fresh farm eggs. Never been on a coaching course in his life, and really never played football at any level. And so he became the assistant manager. And the sort of things that he would say, I was in the team, I'd been playing quite well. I'd got picked by my fellow footballers I was named in the third division team of the year, at a presentation at the Hilton Hotel and all that. So I must have played fairly well anyway, and done the stuff. But he said to me further along in the season, he said, I've been watching you. So that's how he spoke, I've been watching you. So I said, all right, yeah, Brian. He said, yeah. He said, and I think I know where I can help you and put you right. I said, yeah. So he said, right. He said, yeah. He said, I think what you do, he said, is you anticipate and you get there too quick. He said, and you're there before the ball arrives. He said, and he said, but I think what you should do is when they've got the ball and they're looking to play it forward, you should get the player that you're marking and you should hide behind him. Get behind him so that the opposition who have got the ball can't see you. And they think that this man is free. And then when they play the ball up to him, you appear, you come from behind him and get the ball. He said, and then you can play from there. So, of course, I really was laughing to myself, but I thought, well, no, I won't ridicule it. So I said, all right, okay, Brian, I remember that. Thanks for your advice. And just walked away. And,
so boiled, fried or scrambled, there was no hiding place for you?
No. They couldn't hide. I had to, I was there too quick for the ball. So I don't know what coaching course that was on, but obviously he'd been on a different one to me.
Probably the British Egg Society course, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Can't think of anything else that might have come to mind.
No, but that's how he got the job.
And then Alan Mallory turned up there after.
What happened there was Peter Taylor. We'd have a team meeting, and Peter Taylor would say, "Right," he said, "don't worry about it." He said, "I can honestly tell you," and this is how he spoke. He said, "Go and borrow some money. Go and get a second mortgage on your house." He said, "and put it all on us winning promotion." He said, "It's the biggest hurt since, you know." So, because you think, well, hold up, you know, I've got a family. I don't want to go and borrow £20,000 on my house and gamble it away. But he was convinced that that's what you should do. And he was quite a bit of an eccentric sort of guy.
Yeah.
And so he left at the end of the season. We finished up. We missed promotion. I think I told you the story about Millwall, did I, when I was injured?
Yeah.
Yeah, and dealt with that. Anyway, Peter Taylor, he went away on holiday, and we come back training, pre-season training, and we're into the training about a week, and we haven't seen the manager, and everyone's saying, well, where is he? You know, what's he doing? Oh, well, you know, no, he's not very well. All right, okay. So about 10 days, 2 weeks into the pre-season running and all the work that we do, we were called up into a team meet. All the players of the club, the chairman, Mr. Bamber, we were called up to the director's room, and there he told us that Peter Taylor, terrible decision. It's the worst thing that's ever happened to this Mr. Bamber in his life, and he was in tears. He was genuinely upset.
Yeah.
That Peter Taylor had to resign because of ill health. He had a bad heart, and he couldn't deal with football anymore, and so he was resigning out there and then, you know. So we were sort of quite taken aback, and then the next day we were again invited up to the boardroom and introduced to Alan Mallory, which was a very quick decision. And he, in the first respects, was very good for the club because he was very enthusiastic. It was his first management job.
Yeah.
And he did everything with the players. I mean, he hadn't long been packed up playing. So he was quite fit. And the training was good, and it was good fun, got on with everybody. And it was very entertaining. It went along. I was in the team. We were doing quite well, and then I think I got dropped. I was left out of the team. I obviously wasn't the sort of player that he wanted, and I think he got Graham Cross replaced me. He used to play for Leicester.
Yes.
Played in the cup final for Leicester. He's a good steady player, and Crossy played, and following that he got Mark Lawrence in, which obviously wasn't a bad player. Oh. So, I mean, I had no recriminations about, you know, playing at that level against players like that. But we played one game, and it was, you know, as I say, it goes on the fact that when you play as a professional footballer, you do expect to be treated quite fairly and professionally. And I felt that on a few occasions with Mr. Mallory, that didn't happen with me. Right. One occasion was I was recalled back to the team. I'd been left out, but played in the reserves, doing training and behaving myself. I wasn't being a nuisance. And I got selected to play against Swindon on New Year's Day. So we travelled up to Swindon, and I was in midfield. And so off we go, and the pitch was terrible. It was the muddy heap, you know. So we're getting beat first half 2-0, and I was sort of playing in midfield, supposedly marking a guy, their midfield player called Ray McHale, who was a pretty good steady player. Anyway, half-time, I get hooked off. Right, off you're coming off, get in the shower, and someone else replaced me. So I go in the shower very quickly. I'll come out, I'll get dressed, The team get taken out again, right, second half, out they walk. About 3 or 4 minutes later, I quickly rush to get dressed because I want to watch the game. And as I walk out the dressing room, and I've got now collar and tie on, I walk directly behind the referee and the 2 linesmen. Mm-hmm. And as we're sort of walking slowly along the corridor, as you did in those days, out to get onto the pitch, I hear the referee say to the linesman, "All right, boys," he said, "I'm just letting you know, if it carries on raining like this, I'm going to cancel the game." I thought, oh, there it is. So he said, "Only it's still raining. I've checked it." He said, "And there's a lot of overwater." And he said, "I'm considering it's too dangerous to play. So I shall be abandoning the game." So, and because he didn't know it was me, because here I am with a suit, collar and tie on, he doesn't, So I take my place along the bench, sitting next to Mr. Mallory, and into the game. Boom, Swindon score another goal, and it ends up they score another 2 goals, and Ray McHale is now on a hat-trick. He's the man that I was marking in the first half. Right. So as the 4th goal goes in, I said to Mr. Mallory, I said, "It's your lucky day today, Al, isn't it?" So, because he, got a lot of verbal from him. So he disagreed with that. And he said, "What do you mean, lucky day?" He said, "We're getting stuffed here 4-0, we're going to get nothing out of this one." I said, "No." I said, "What I mean is he's going to call the game off." He said, "No way, he's not going to call the game off." I said, "I bet he does." I said, "If it keeps raining," I said, "another 10 minutes, it will be in. The game's abandoned." Anyway, we carry on playing. And he did. He blew the whistle and everybody comes in. Well, of course, Alan didn't like that one little bit, I suppose, because I've told him he didn't know that the referee, I'd overheard the referee saying that was what he was going to do. So that didn't go down very well. No. And, of course, I didn't expect to be playing the following week, and that was it. So then we go to about the end of, I think it was into end of January or February, and I'm on the team sheet. I'm a substitute against Tranmere Rovers away from home. Right. So up we travel, horrible day again, muddy pitch, and I'm sitting on the bench, and we're losing 1-0 at half time. Peter O'Sullivan comes off, he's got an injury, so he doesn't play. So he says to me, "Right, on you go, midfield." That's it. So I go on, and we had quite a good side. We had a few good players. Brian Horton was there then. Right. He was in midfield, so I went alongside him. And halfway through the second half, I win a tackle from somebody, and I'm moving forward, and I think, I'm going to have a shot here. So I had a dig, and crash, it goes screaming in the net. And 1-1. So then we carry on playing, and expect about 10 minutes from the end of the game, I win another tackle just outside their penalty area, go forward, get to the byline, cross it with my left foot. Peter Ward comes in, taps it in, boom, 2-1, and we win the game. So I'll go in, and because everybody's happy. But Mr. Mallory doesn't come up to me and say, like, "Well done, Dennis," or tap me on the shoulder and say, "You did all right today." Nothing, just completely blanked. Then, obviously, the following week, I'm not in the team. So, you know from there that you're not wanted and you're surplus to requirements. So I was out the team and went from there. And then I think it was probably about another month down the line, he called me in the office and said that an American club had been on the phone and they wanted requested permission to talk to me about signing me to go back over there. Right. So my wife and I went up to London on the train, and we had a meal with the Carlton Towers Hotel with the owner of the club, a man called John Best. Very nice guy. I don't know if he played for Liverpool, but he was involved at Liverpool Football Club some years before. And he was the general manager of Seattle Sounders. And he made this offer to me, 3-year contract. I was player coach at the time, with a view that after 3 years I would get the job as manager, take it over. Yeah. And it was a nice job, nice part of the world to live, Seattle.
Yeah.
And with the deal, you got a car, you got all your transport, your airfares, and they provided a home for you to live in. So it was a nice setup for 3 years. So the next morning I went back to Mr. Mallory in his office, and I said to him, how'd you get on? I said, yeah, I liked it. I said, we'd like to sign, we're going to go out there. Okay, he said, all right, I'll just tell the chairman. Well, the chairman, Mr. Bamber, shared an office just along from the club, it was sort of in the same building. So he come back after about 5 or 10 minutes, and he sat down, he went, he said, yeah, he said, that's all right. He said, but he said, you do know that we want a fee for you. So I thought, a fee? What? Why do you want a fee for me? He said, well, we want to earn money. I said, but I've been here nearly 2 years. I didn't get a signing on fee when I arrived. I didn't want one, didn't ask for one. I'm on my basic money. I didn't ask for massive wages. I'm now 32, I think it probably was then, 32, 33 years of age. You don't want me. I'm out of the team. I'm training with the reserves. And yet you want money for me. So he said, well, that's how it is and all that. So I said, but that's unfair. I said, I've got a loyalty bonus to come, the end of June, the end of the contract. I said, £2,000. So he said, I'll go and have a word with with the chairman. So out he goes again, comes back after another 5 or 10 minutes. And he says, no, he's insistent. He wants money for you. So I said, well, I'll have to, I'll have to have a word with the guy and see what he says. Anyway, I phoned up John Best and the Seattle man, and he said, look, I have no problems with paying a transfer fee for you. He said, but I'm given a budget. He said, all the American clubs, they have a budget of, let's say, $400,000 to spend, and that has to be shared amongst all the players. So if you wanted Pele and you give him $200,000, you would only have $200 to spend on all your other 15 squad players or something.
Yeah.
So it comes out of each player's allotted amount of money that he's got to pay for you. So he said, so I don't mind paying it. He said, but it's going to come out of your wages. Because he said your transport fee costs and your home and your housing costs will stay the same. He said, so whatever fee it's got to come out of your wages, what you're going to get 3 years. Right, okay. So I went back the next day and said to Mr. Muller about it and said, well, how much are we talking about? What sort of fee is it? So I can't remember exactly, but he come back again. He went, I'm sure he said something like about £9,000 or £10,000.
Right.
So because I blew my top, because you thought, well, you split £9,000 over 3 years, that's £3,000 a year. That's like £60 a week. I might have been only getting £200 a week. Yeah, so you take a third of that away. Yeah. It means it's a big chunk out of money. So I really blew my top a little bit. And I sort of was angry and everything. He said, well, that's what it is and everything. So I said, what about my if I do go and settle for that, what about my loyalty bonus that is due in another couple of months? He said, well, you don't get that. He said, that's only paid up until the end of June. I said, well, you're going to get money from me and everything else. He went, no. He said, I said, well, what do I have to do to get that? He said, well, he said, if you stay here, he said, you'll have to come in training in the morning with the juniors at 10 o'clock and come back again at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and train every day until the end of June. So, because that was really done me up, that did. So I just said to him, well, in no certain what terms, you could stick your contract and your loyalty bonus where you want to. I'm leaving. He said, well, we'll retain your registration as a footballer. I said, well, we'll see about that. So I just walked out the office. I walked down to the secretary's office and said to him, can you just make my P45 up? I'm retiring from football and I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. So I just walked out the club with no money or nothing. And obviously the registration, they didn't stop it. They didn't give me any problems. and I signed. By then, of course, the Seattle club during this little spell. They probably might have got somebody else. I don't know, but St. Louis come back in for me again.
Yeah.
And no, nothing. As it happens, no, it didn't. In between that time, that's when I went back to Millwall on loan.
That's right.
And it was just prior to that some St. Louis come back in for me again, and I agreed to go out there. So that was what happened with the Peter Taylor and Mr. Mallory. It's my opinions, obviously, but I just felt that, you mix with different people and you hear out. I mean, the thing is with Brighton was when Alan Murray first came, and as a first day, and I used to be quite friendly with Phil Bill, and we went over and had a cup of tea over the cafe just across the road. And we were talking, and he said, "Oh well," he said, "you might as well get your boots ready." He said, "and put them in a bag." So I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well," he said, he said, "get your football boots." He said, "Because we'll be off soon." I said, "Why'd you say that, Phil?" I said, "Well, He said, "Well," he said, "I played with Alan Mallory." He said, "for a long while at Spurs." He said, "as Joe did as well." He said, "And you played against him." He said, "And we won't last." He said, "He'll be the last people that he will want around him is us three, because Phil Bill played with him and knew him, and I played against him." And he was right. Within about 3 weeks, Joe Kinnear got paid up his contract and he left. And then Phil Bill, he got paid up just after Christmas and he left. And I was out the side.
And you followed.
And I followed. So
an amazing story. Women Fancy. That was a really enlightening view about management and managers. But there was a rumour that at one stage you were due to return to the Den when Gordon Jago was our manager. Was there any truth in that?
Yeah, there was the truth. It was that was the second period when I went out to America, and when I'd left Brighton, and obviously they. I think Millwall got to hear about it, and Gordon Jago said, "Well, come up here," and we were struggling. I think Millwall finally got relegated that year.
Yeah.
And I played about 4 or 5 games. We got a few points. I remember we picked up 3 points, or we won. I don't know if it might have been 2 points still then at Sheffield Wednesday, away from home. And I happened to score the only goal. I didn't score many goals, but I scored that one. And a couple of other games. I remember we lost at home to Norwich. Martin Peters scored for Norwich.
Yeah.
I think we lost 2-1, 1-0. We was in the game, but just things went against us. And I'd already agreed to go to America again. And Gordon Jago said, "Look, I want to sign you. Can you stay?" And everything. I said, "Look, I've done a deal. I can't not honour the agreement we've got." I said, "But it's only for sort of 6 months. I'll be back." He said, "Well, I'll sign you. I'll wait for you. When you come back from America, come to the club. Come and see me." He said, "And I'll sign you on." He said, "And you've got a job," which I did. I come back from America. I'd had a fairly good season. Was fit, and went to Millwall. Watched the first home game that was there, and Gordon didn't talk to me. So that was that. But that's, obviously that's football. Things had happened in the summer, I suppose.
Yeah.
He probably got players in that he felt was sufficient for him to carry on, and he didn't need me then. So I've got no qualms about that. But it's just the managers.
The way they are.
That's how they work. But what I never can understand is why they feel a personal regard that they can't talk to you anymore, or they can't just say, "Oh, I'm sorry, Dennis, I know I said that, but things have changed, boom, 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 and, let's get on with it." But it doesn't happen.
When you finished playing in the States for the second time, you returned to the UK. but you were quick to get back into football again.
When I finished playing in America, I come back. I had a very short spell in Dublin with Shamrock Rovers. Eamonn Duffy set me up for this one.
Yeah.
And Johnny Giles was the manager. And I went over there. And, you know, when you're talking about managers, tell you this with Johnny Giles, I absolutely admire the man. Great player. Really good player. But I had a deal with him. It was nothing on paper. And he said, right, you train at home. He said, keep yourself fit. He said, you come over here the day before the game. I'll pay for all your hotel bills. I'll pay for your travel, your flight across from Dublin, from Gatwick to Dublin. And he said, and I'll give you £100 every time you play, every game you play. Which, right, fine, you know, was good. I'm grateful for that. He said, and what I'll do, he said, after 10 games, he said, I'll give you an extra £100 bonus. So for every 10 games you play, you get extra £100. So, fine, off we go. So I went over there and I'd draw my money. After the game, I'd go to the secretary's office, which was Johnny Giles' brother-in-law, and he would pay me out what I was owed. And anyway, after I played about 7 or 8 games, I got the offer to go to Norway. And I'd gone over there. Anyway, that's another story. We won't go into that. But I agreed to take the job. But the job didn't start until February. And this was like Christmas time. So I went over to play for Dublin again and for Shamrock Rovers. And I was with John. And I said to him, John, I've got some news to tell you. So he said, oh, what's that? I said, well, I've had an interview and I've been offered a job as player manager and to take over this club in Norway. He said, whereabouts is that? I said, well, it's Haugesund. It's near Bergen, Stavanger. He said, all right. He said, great. He said, I'm pleased for you. So I said, oh, I said, but that means I can't play. He said, no. He said, that's fine. He said, you know, you're going to further your career. He said, and I think it's a great start. He said, when you got to go? So I said, well, that's the problem. I said, I don't have to go there till February. So you know, it's now Christmas. He said, that's all right. He said, no, that's fine. He said, I still want you to come out and play. He said, and I was quite surprised because I thought he was going to say, like, oh, well, you're going to clear off, don't bother to come here anymore, you know, which is what most of them would do. But he wasn't like that. He said, no, he said, I want you to come and play. He said, you're an influence to the younger boys and everything fine. I said, well, the only other problem with that, John, I said, is if I stay throughout January, it means that I will have topped up my games and I will have played the 10 games. So he said, well, what's wrong with that? I said, well, don't you remember? I said, the agreement was that after I played 10 games, you give me extra £100. All right. He said, well, if that's what I agreed, he said, and if that's what I said, that's fine. He said, we'll do it. And, you know, bang on the 10th game, I went to the office and, you know, and that's the difference between some managers. You know, there wasn't a contract, there wasn't anything, and yet his word was his bond, and he you know, he dealt with it as you would expect a professional to do it.
The Honourable Johnny Giles.
Absolutely, yeah.
You have had a wonderful experience over a number of years. One that I never realised was the bit about Norway. Can you just briefly tell us about what you did there?
I got a phone call from a man called Jack Turner, who I used to know at West Ham, and he was like our sort of agent, and he would help us to get mortgages. He was a Royal London insurance guy, and he would encourage all the youngsters, when you first sign for the club, put £3 a week of your wages into this book and, you know, save up money for your deposit for your mortgage, which is what we used to do in those days. And he was Bobby Moore's agent. And so I used to know him quite well from going up the office, and I'd see Bobby there and we'd chat. So when I went to Norway, he phoned me up and said, how do you want how do you want a job in Norway? I said, oh, what? He said, well, they phoned me up. He said they want Bobby Moore to go as player manager. He said, but he can't go. He's got so many commitments. He said he can't get out of it and go. So I've told him that, no, Bobby Moore can't do it, but I know somebody that will. He said, and I'll put your name forward. So I said, right. So I went up to London and met the chairman in the Grosvenor House Hotel, had a meal, and he read it out to me. So he said, I'd like to invite you and Jack Turner over to Norway and come and meet everybody and see what you think. So we went over there I think it was December, and it was brutal weather. It was terrible. We flew into Stavanger and got what they call the Vestamaran, which is like a hydrofoil boat, which goes right up the coast from Stavanger to Bergen and up further to Mulder and places like that. And, well, talk about rough. Oh, dear, I thought that was it. I thought I'm never even going to get to this club, let alone do a contract. So anyway, Jack and I went and we saw the facilities and we spoke to everybody and come back home. And then we went back out again in the January, and Jack come with me again and sat down, and first time ever, and I got the best contract anybody could ever have. Wow. And he arranged everything, and I wish I'd have had Jack Turner do my contracts with Millwall and Hull City. I would have been a rich man. But anyway, so we'd sat there and he went it all out. Secretary went back to the office, a man secretary, and wrote it all up, and I signed there and then that night. Yeah. And then the wife and I went out in the February, and obviously, but they were brilliant. The first house we had was owned by one of the big shipping magnates in Norway, who had something like 400 oil tankers. Stort Nielsen, his name was, a very rich man. And he come from the town and he said, oh, you can have this house. Well, the house was used by the Germans during the war. Right. And it was quite a big old house, but it was nice. But the chairman of the club, who was quite a wealthy man, he said, right, you go up to this massive, big sort of, not quite like IKEA, but a big, like shopping, not shopping, but a furniture store. Yeah. He said, pick what you want out. He said, everything, pick it out. Dining room seats, chairs, beds, the lot, linen, everything. So my wife, we thought it was Christmas come again. You know, we went, oh, we'll have that. Yeah, we'll have that. Everything was delivered, everything free of charge. And brand new Saab car. This was back in 1978. Yeah. And anyway, I won't, we could take you all day talking about Norway. I love the place.
What was your success like out there?
First year, I took Barry Salvage out, and Jack Turner got a boy from Walthamstow called Dean Mooney, who was about 6'4" and long blonde hair. He looked Swedish. He was from East London, so But so we had 3 English players, and all the rest were Norwegians. They were all amateurs. They all had jobs. And the first year we won the 3rd Division Championship, and we played absolutely brilliant. The year before I was there, their last game, they just avoided relegation, and they had 54 people watching. Goodness. And by the end of my first year there, we were getting 1,500 was the average.
That's good progress.
Anyway. Yeah, we won the 3rd Division. The next year we played in the 2nd Division, and we come 5th. But we got to the Norwegian Cup final in Oslo. The King of Norway presented to him, because you do it exactly the same as Wembley. They all line up, and the King comes down and goes along the line, and it's all national television. It's all live. 25,000 people was the maximum crowd, but that was all they had. So, and we lost 2-0 to Viking of Stavanger, who had won the 1st Division championship, and they were all national players. They were all internationals, and we lost 2-0 with an offside, a penalty, and an own goal. Goodness. No, 2-1. Sorry, 2-1. We scored first. A good header from a corner. So The third year, we then played in the second division, and we represented Norway in the European Cup Winners' Cup.
Wow.
Because Stavanger of Viking they'd already won the league, so they played in the European Cup.
Yeah.
So we represented Norway in the European Cup Winners' Cup, and then we won the second division the third year, won the second division championship, and we won the first round of the European Cup. We played a team from Switzerland called Sion, who was managed by an ex-Millwall manager called Oscar Arthur.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember him?
Yeah.
Vaguely, yeah.
Very
so
vaguely.
He was the man.
Yeah.
Very vaguely, yeah. So we won that, but sadly we got beat in the next round by Newport County, who had a young boy made his debut for them in European football called John Aldridge. I don't know if you remember the name.
I remember him a little bit better.
Yeah. So that was his first game. But so that was it.
Yeah, fantastic time.
And 4 years, 4 great years,
The Norwegian experience. Who do you consider to have been your toughest opponent?
Well, I give that a lot of thought, actually, and I played against quite a lot of players, and the likes of Johnny Giles. I liked him as a manager, Billy Bremner. But I think the toughest opponent, and I only ever played when I played for West Ham against Man United, he was injured.
Right.
But Georgie Best.
Yeah.
But I played against him in America and in the Coliseum in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And he was playing for the Los Angeles Aztecs. And they had quite a star-studded team. Phil Bill played from Spurs.
Right.
I mean, we've been playing and a few others. And George Best was left wing. And he was one of these players that you thought to yourself after 70 minutes, you thought, oh, he's having a quiet game. He ain't done anything yet. It was 0-0.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh, we've tied him up. He's not had a good day. And everything he's tried to do, I've intercepted, because we had a man-to-man marking on him. And whenever he got free, then I was there to cover and, nick the ball, or he played it off. And he hadn't really done much. Anyway, about 5 minutes left to play, maybe a little bit more than that. He goes over and he takes a short corner, and he gets it back from the short corner, and he's now coming in along the touchline, and he beats our fullback. So I then go out to confront him. So I'm probably about 8 yards out, and he's turning one way and then the other, and I'm sort of holding him there. Anyway, he's gone on his left, and he's hit this shot, and it's crashed in. But I couldn't believe it gone in the goal. I really didn't. I thought it was a goal kick, and he had no room. He couldn't beat me, and he's just lashed it in. And I thought, well, from an example of a great player, because he could do nothing for so much, and then all of a sudden you think you've done it, you've done your job. And then out of the blue, out of nothing, he would score a wonder goal. Yeah. And I think, I'd hate to have played it. Well, I'd love to have played against him on a real full game, but, in this country. But, you watch him and he's doing it all the time. He don't just do that once. He does that 5-6 times a game.
Regularly. He was a star.
Yeah.
Was a star.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And what a waste of talent. I mean,
yeah.
Even he knows that was 1977. Yeah. He invited us back, just a few of the English boys. He said, "Don't bring all the Americans because they're stupid." He said, "Just a few like us English boys, like Ray Evans and Barry Salvage and me." Yeah. He said, "Come back." He said, "My bar." He said, "Come back and have something to eat and a drink on me." So that's what we did. After the game, we went back to his bar in Los Angeles called George's Bar.
Yeah.
And we stayed there till well in the hours of the next morning. And not only did he beat me at football, but he beat me at drinking as well. Well, and I think that was his downfall as well.
Yeah, it was. I think so.
But, quite a character.
There's a story of a local lad to you in Sussex who you found and brought to Millwall and who became quite a player for us. You're going to tell us about that story, Dennis?
So I come back from Norway, and I'd had 4 really good years there.
That's right.
And I wanted to sort of still keep fit. So I had some friends that run Saltbeck Football Club, which is sort of literally where I'm sitting now, is half a mile away.
Right.
So I'd see them, and they said, well, why don't you come and play for us and all that? So I said, well, I don't really want to play, but I don't mind doing the coaching and come down and help you and keep fit twice a week. So that's what I did. And I ended up that I took I went with the first team on the Saturday. But I took a big interest in the youth team, like the under-18s. So I then started coaching them on a Tuesday and Thursday nights and watching them on a Sunday. And over the course of the first year, this boy, I took, straight away, I thought, well, he's got something special about him. He was only about 15 and a half then. The second year, we developed again, and a lot of the coaching I did was developing around concentrating on him, not just taking him one-on-one away from everybody else, but the whole of the session was to do things which is what he needed to do to be a better player.
Yeah.
And the rest of the players were involved as well. But anyway, I particularly liked him. He had a very good attitude. He had a good physique. He could run all day. Believe me, there's nobody could beat him in a long distance run. And he was a nice character. His mum was a nice lady, and his dad, I used to play with his dad, Everton. I feel he was a big bruiser of a centre forward. You wouldn't want to knock him. And so after the second season, he was now in the first team on occasions, and he was still doing well. It was only county league football, but that can be quite tough,
Yeah.
So I said to him, "Do you want me to try and arrange a trial for you at a club?" He said, "Yeah, of course I would." So I got on the phone to West Ham. Harry Redknapp was the manager at the time, and their coaching for the youth team was Tony Carr, who's been there a long while, and also Ronnie Boyce and Peter Braybrook, who I played with.
Mm.
So I go take him up to Chadwell Heath, which is their training ground. It was one afternoon, and the first team were just finishing, and Paul Ifield is playing, and they were playing against Welling, which were a very tough outfit. Then they had a reputation of bringing some good youth team players in. So they're playing the game, and I always have this thing and I go and stand on my own on the touchline. I never go with 4 or 5 people because they're all chatting about different things and all that, and I just like to be on my own and look at, assess the game and the player that I'm dealing with. So I'm on my own and I'm watching, and as I'm walking up and down, I can hear these people, this Peter Braybrook, and all they're talking about is, "Oh, what a good player, what a good player." And they weren't talking about Paul Ifield, they were talking about Joey Cole, who they were trying to get him to sign full-time professional.
Right.
And he had other offers, I think, from Spurs and possibly Arsenal, but that was all they was talking about. Oh, what a great pass! Oh, did you see that? And I'm watching. Anyway, Paul was doing quite well, bearing in mind that he didn't know anybody on the pitch. He didn't know the names of any player because he'd only just walked in the dressing room, got changed and went out on the pitch. Anyway, the first half, I think Welling scored quite early on. They dominated, but West Ham got a corner. Paul went up, won the header. Goalkeeper makes a great save, but as it drops, another West Ham player puts in the goal. Scores a goal, so it's 1-1. Right, good. Now, by this time, the whole of the first team squad have finished their training session, and they're all lined up along the touchline on the far side. And, all the players, I can't remember who they were, but it was at that period. So, second half, West Ham are under a bit of pressure. They clear the ball, goes up to Paul at the halfway line, if you can imagine, Paul Ifield's, there's 2 against 1. He comes there quickly, he gets the ball under control, draws the centre half in. As he comes in, nutmegs him, pushes it through his legs, goes the other side. Now he's off towards goal. Now he could run, he had a big long stride. The sweeper comes across, Paul drops him a dummy, pretends to go one side, pushes the ball the other side, gets to the edge of the box, crashes, he absolutely creams one in. Great goal, absolutely, you know. And all the players that are watching it on the other side, they're all cheering, all clapping, all the first team squad. You know, God dear. After the game, Peter Braybrook comes up to me and says, "Oh, the boy did well." I said, "Yeah, he did well, Peter. Yeah, do all right, you know." He said, "Oh, well," he said, "I'll give you a ring." He said, "And we'll have another look at it." Right, okay. So I take Paul home. A couple of weeks later, we get a phone call. I get a phone call from Peter Braybrook. Right, he said, "Yeah, we've got another game. We'd like to have another look at him. Can you bring him up?" I said, "Yeah, fine. Where is it?" He said, "It's an evening game at Bishop Stortford," which is like right in Suffolk, you know, over the Dartford Tunnel, M11, and you go on forever, you know.
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, okay, yeah. I'll bring him up, you know, at my expense. I'll take a day off work and all the petrol." So I took Paul up there, and John Radford, the Arsenal centre forward, was the manager of Bishop Stortford at the time. And again, they had always recognised they had a good youth setup, you know, like tough, all the boys. So Paul plays the first half, and he's doing quite well. He scored 3 goals. He made the 4th goal. We took a throw in. He rolled. I can see it now in my head. He rolled the centre half. He's gone right along the touchline. Just rolled it across. It's a tap in, 4-0. I'm thinking, you know, he's so they've got to ask him to sign. You know, he scored 3 goals. Everything else, and he's the whole nucleus of the team. You know, he's getting the ball, he's knocking it. He comes out half time, and the team come out. And as I say, I don't get involved with anybody. I just keep to myself. I've got a cup of tea. Stood out on the terrace, and the second half, the team come out. And as they're all running out, and I'm looking, and I can't see Paul. I think, well, where is he? You know. Anyway, a couple of minutes later, he comes out. He's dressed. I said, "What's up? Are you injured?" He went, "No." He said, "They've said that they've got somebody else they want to have a look at." So, because I thought myself, well, they've got us to come all the way from Brighton to Bishop Stortford. He's obviously shown what he can do.
Yeah.
And they want to look at someone else. I think that's a disgrace. You know, Anyway, I had words with Pete Braybrook. I had words with Tony Carr, and I said, you know, to me, it's out of order. What you're trying to do. Anyway, we come home, and we never got another phone call from West Ham. And after about a month, and I thought, well, I just can't believe these people. You know, to me, you've got Joey Cole, and you've got people like that who they sort of idolise, and they go into raptures over, and all they're doing is playing a couple of little pretty passes on the halfway line. And yet somebody like Paul Ifield, who's winning the game, who's scoring magnificent goals, it's like, oh, you know, well, no, he's not our type of player. Well, what sort of player do you want? You know, football, to me, is about 11 players against 11 players.
Yeah.
And the ultimate aim of football is to win, and is to score goals.
Yeah.
And that is really why a lot of the present day football I don't like, because it's all this. I know you've got to have possession football, but possession football is not going to win you games. Winning games is getting the ball up in the final third and scoring goals.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my. I know you can go on about it, but that was my theory. So Paul was obviously a little bit upset. He didn't let it affect him, because I say he had a great attitude. So then I phoned up Jeff Burnett, who you know obviously through working with him, who was a friend of mine because his dad was a director and a chairman when I played, and an absolute lovely man, and Jeff's mum. And so I phoned him up, said, "I've got this player, Jeff, I think he's worth a look at." So over a period of time, weeks and months, he watched him. They took him up there for training. And as you know, they invited him to sign professional. And this is another, I don't know who's to blame, but, all the work that I did getting Paul up there, I never got any money. And when it come to the fact of, well, we want to sign him as a professional, and I said to Jeff, well, look, what do I get out of it? I've done all this. He's my player and everything. Yeah. Oh, don't worry. The football club have an agreed figure of people that introduce players that subsequently sign on professional and play. And right, okay, fine. I've never seen any penny. I haven't seen a penny come my way.
Well, you wait till I see Jeff Burnett next time.
Well, he knows. I've spoken to him about it. And all you get is, but. But after 295 games, Paul Ifield was transferred to Sheffield United for £300,000.
That's it.
And enough, I didn't even get a £5 Christmas voucher. But, that's football, as they say. And finally, obviously, I just have to mention it, is that, I can't play football anymore.
No.
I'm a little bit too old for that. And but I still enjoy watching the game.
Yeah.
But so we have started, because as you know, Freemasonry is a big part of my life.
That's right.
And we do an awful lot of good for charity. And last year we consecrated the Football Lodge of Sussex, which is a themed Masonic lodge of obviously football-orientated people. Most of them are obviously Brighton and Albion sort of football supporters and season ticket holders. But we've got quite a lot of other Leicester City followers and different people. And we raise money for kids football. That's our aim. Yeah. In the local areas. And in fact, we've just started a twice a month session of like a Zoom program that's going out, aimed at all the youngsters that can't get out and play with their mates. And we're doing a 45-minute coaching session.
Yeah.
Taken by a couple of the guys that are ex-professional footballers, Dan Harding, who played for Southampton, Notts Forest, and a couple of others. It's started off and proving quite successful. So we're doing our little bit for the youngsters in these difficult times.
Yeah, returning the favours of times gone by with your experiences. That's fantastic.
And this is something we do for nothing. We don't expect signing on seats.
No, that's reasonable. Goodness, no. As someone said, it's a funny old game.
Yeah, it is a funny old game.
Certainly, the stories that we've heard, Dennis, are just incredible. I mean, listening to it, and they said, "This is more like someone's 'This Is Your Life," and I said, "Well, it is."
I think that concludes our little session of chatting about Millwall days and, of course, Peckham and Bermondsey and so on and so forth. I really hope that your people that listening, and obviously majority of them are probably very staunch Millwall supporters, but I hope that they found it interesting and that the few stories that I've told about Millwall and West Ham and Brighton, it just is increases the interest that they have in football and in Millwall, especially at this sad time where we've been without football for so long. The one thing for me about this programme, it's reignited a lot of connections with my past at the club. Doug, the Alder, has been in touch with me and I've had a long chat with him. We haven't spoke probably for 25, 30 years. And also a guy called Gary Irving, who has been an assistant kit man at the club for about 9 years. And I've known Gary since I first joined Millwall, which would be 1968. And he asked me to get him some tickets for an away game, which I did. And then every week after that, I got a most magnificent bunch of flowers sent to my wife. because Gary worked in the flower market, and she got her flowers and Gary got his tickets. And I spoke to him, which we haven't spoke to for about 30 years. So it's great to get in touch with these people, which I have to owe that to you and the radio station.
Been a pleasure to talk with you, and the stories are brilliant. Beyond the West Hams and Millwalls, we've had people from Charlton Athletic, Brighton and Hove Albion, Hull, and a few other places that you wouldn't work out why they would be attracted to listening to the story. But
I see you've even had somebody from Holland.
There is a Dutch guy, yeah.
A connection there.
Yeah, it's gone global. If you look on the stats, it shows where downloads and live hearings come from around in the other side of the world, in what will be not quite so sunny this time of year, Australia. It's gone there.
Right.
And it does get picked up in the most, not odd, but places where people are interested in football. Indonesia being another one of them. But, yeah, so you've gone global, Dennis. How about that?
Thank you very, very much for that, Ian. That's you've given me the opportunity, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Look forward to our little sessions.
All right, then. You take care.
Okay, I will do, and wish everybody and obviously Millwall, wish them really the best of luck. They're going well, got a good manager. So next year, well, hopefully we'll see them right at the top of the league.
Or even in the Premiership.
Oh, wouldn't that be something, yeah.
Wouldn't that be something? Cheers, Dennis. That's lovely.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed the chat between Dennis and Eamonn like I did. Our next former Millwall star to enter the chair of telling is the Millwall captain that took the Lions to their one and only adventure to the top flight. He's also my co-commentator on Millwall iFollow and a very good friend of mine. It's Les Briley. If you have someone you might like us to interview, give your reasons on an email addressed to nolutalking@gmail.com. That's NOLUTALKIN without a G, nolutalking@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and we will play out for you to practice for Saturday once again with the Wall of Sound.